support comes from the South Dakota Agricultural Heritage Museum in Brookings, inspiring a passion for the diverse history, culture, and science of agriculture in South Dakota. To learn more about exhibits and events, you can visit agmuseum.com.
Welcome in here to First Bank and Trust Arena. I'm Ben Anderson with Collegian Sports. It's Jackrabbit Volleyball, the exhibition spring tournament right here in Brookings. So glad to have this one for you. It's a beautiful evening here in South Dakota. Brookings, 60 degrees, 70 all day, sunny, beautiful day here for the student athletes on this Wednesday evening. Get it started here. I assume we're going to be playing best of 5 sets. The Jackrabbits taking on the SMSU Mustangs from Marshall, Minnesota. And it will be Marshall starting off with the serve here. Sydney Thine serves across. That's picked up by Scots. Here's Madison Burr sending a heater, and the first point going to come from Madison Burr. Off the spike over. Found open space in the back row of the Mustangs. Jacks 1, SMSU going to be down to 0 here in set number 1. Serving back behind the line for the Jacks, it's Aaliyah Schlimgit. That's to the back row of the Mustangs, sent back over here. Blocked up front by Madison Burr again. Second point for the Jackrabbits here in set number 1. They take the lead 2-0. Schlimgit back behind the line, serving once again for the yellow and blue. Waiting here, equipment issue on the Mustang side as Maya Kursasek has to retie a shoe. Here comes a serve. That's to the back row, picked up by the Mustangs. Set up here. Here's the tip across, and Schlimgit can't quite dive in front of it. The Mustangs with the kill there. 2-1. Jackrabbits head by 1 in set number 1. Last time these two teams met officially was in 2003 as the Mustangs serve back. This is Van Igdam. Here is Martin, and Madison Burr again with the hammer. She's got all 3 points for the Jacks in the first set. 3-1 the score. Jackrabbits by 2 right away here as Rachel Weber back behind the line to serve it for the Jacks. Weber from the back line. That's picked up by the back row for SMSU. Free ball for the Jacks as Riley Martin puts it down on the other side on hit number 1. And a kill for Riley Martin. It's 4-1. The Jacks by 3. Rachel Weber still serving. This one tipped into the net. Service error there by the Jacks. SMSU has 2 points on the board now. Jacks 4. Jacks lead this one in set number 1 as Mackenzie Tolk back behind the line serving for the Mustangs. That one picked up by Rachel Weber. Here's Riley Martin setting up Scots on the outside. That's through the block, and Sylvie Scots able to get the kill there for the Jacks. 5-2 the score now in set number 1 as the Jacks lead it by 3. After the kill by Sylvie Scots, Madison Burr back behind the line serving. The sophomore out of Goodhue, Minnesota. That's to the back line. Here comes a spike across. That's blocked up front by Scots. A direct set on hit number 2 there. Sent over by Sydney Thine. The kill for the Mustangs. The Jackrabbits were a little out of position there. It's 5-3. The Jacks up by 2 here in set number 1. Service across by the Mustangs. That's picked up by Rachel Weber. Riley Martin sets up Scots again. Scots gets through the block up front, and a kill there for Sylvie. It's 6-3. The Jacks lead it by 3 in this spring exhibition game as Riley Martin back behind the line to serve this one for the yellow and blue. Martin's serve. That's to the back left corner, picked up by SMSU. Here comes a spike across. That's off the hands of Sylvie Sconson over to the Mustangs side. Here comes a spike. That's dug up by Riley Martin, but it gets sent too far to the right and out of play. Point for the Mustangs. It's 6-4. The Jacks up by 2. Maya Kirstek serving for the team from Marshall. That one picked up by Scots. Here's Martin setting up Ventling Brown on the outside and down on the Mustang side. Annalie Ventling Brown with the kill. It's 7-4 as the Jacks lead it by 3 in set number 1. Sylvie Scots back behind the line serving for the Jackrabbits. This one picked up by center as a spike comes back to the Jackrabbit side, dug up by Martin. Here's Ventling Brown, set up by Jocelyn Richardson. The Mustangs dig that one up. Here comes a spike across and tips off the top of the net. Van Igdam can't quite get up there to dig it up. And a point for the Mustangs. It's 7-5. Jacks by 2 in set number 1. Delaney Vold serving for the Mustangs now. This one picked up by the libero Richardson. Here's Martin setting up Taylor Bile for the kill there. The redshirt freshman out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, with the point for the Jacks. It's 8-5. Jacks by 3, set number 1. Richardson back behind the line to serve this one. This one to the back right corner, picked up by the Mustangs. Here comes a tip across. That's above the block. And a good position there by the Mustangs. Got above Madison Burr that time for the kill. It's 8-6. Jacks still by 2 in set number 1. Sydney Thine going to be serving this one for the Mustangs. Picked up by Scots. Martin setting up the outside. Ventling Brown tips across into the block, and SMSU can't quite get a handle of it. An error there for the Mustangs. It's going to be 9-6. Jacks by 3. Aaliyah Schlimgen going to be back serving this one for the Jacks. This one cuts across to the back left corner. SMSU sends back a spike. That's inbounds. They're going to rule it out by the flag. Challenged by SMSU. And they are awarded the point after the reconsideration. It's going to be 9-7. Jacks by 2. Service by the Mustangs. Picked up by Van Igdam. That tips the pylon. After the dig was inaccurate to the left. Point for the Mustangs after the error by Van Igdam there. Paige Steinmetz serving for the Mustangs. This one picked up by Van Igdam again. Martin setting up Van Igdam on the left side. That's blocked up front. Popped up by Richardson. Van Igdam again tips above the block. That's dug up by the back row for the Mustangs. Here comes a tip across. That's dug up by Scots. And Martin up there at the net on hit number 2 gets the kill. Martin pushed that one over into open space. Mustangs not ready for it. Point there for the Jacks. It's 10-8. Jacks by 2. Rachel Weber back behind the line serving. Weber to the back row middle. Here comes the set and the tip over from the Mustangs. Dug up by Martin. Here's Richardson bumping up for Sconce on the outside. Sconce into the back row. And the Mustangs can't dig it. A point and a kill for Sylvie Sconce. It's 11-8. And the Jacks by 3. Rachel Weber still serving for the Jackrabbits. Weber on the service. Jacks lead it by 3 in set number 1. That's the back row middle for SMSU. Here comes the spike across. Blocked up front. Madison Burr gets up and stops that one. It's 12-8. Jacks lead by 4 here against the team from Marshall. The Mustangs, Rachel Weber still serving this as the Jacks lead by 4 in set number 1. That to the back right corner. Set up the spike, and Sconce gets up to block it. That one off of her hands and out of bounds. And the Mustangs get the point. It's 12-9. The Jackrabbits by 3 here in set number 1. Mackenzie Tolk back serving for SMSU. Schlimgen bumps it up. Martin to Burr. Burr gets through the block up front and able to get the kill there. 13-9. Jacks by 4. Madison Burr back serving. Burr sends that one in the near side corner. Picked up by the back row. Here comes a spike across. Picked up by Weber on the dig. Here's Martin setting up Sconce on the near side. Sconce blocked up front. That time by Carly Arkell for the Mustangs. Sconce not able to penetrate the block that time. 13-10. The Jacks by 3. Kennedy Drake serving for the Mustangs. Schlimgen on the dig. Martin directs it on hit number 2, and it's Riley Martin who gets it again. 14-10 after the set over by Martin. The Jackrabbits with the point. Martin back behind the line serving. That one across center net. As the Mustangs struggle to get a hold of it, they send over a spike that's blocked up front. Taylor Bile back for the Mustangs. That one tips the pylon. And the Jackrabbits get the point. (15-10), Jacks by 5. Riley Martin still back serving for the yellow and blue. She holds the single season service ace record for the Jacks currently. This one popped up by Mackenzie Tolk in the back row for the Mustangs. Here comes a spike across as Annalie Ventling-Brown touches that one up at the net, and it deflects onto the Jackrabbit side. 15-11, Jacks by 4. Maya Christosek serving for the Mustangs. And that time on the outside, it's Sylvie Scotts sending that one down in Mustang territory. Scotts going to be back to serve it now after the kill. 16-11, the Jacks by 5. This one to the back row, service by Scotts. Tip over on hit number 2. Riley Martin digs it up. Here's Richardson to Van Igdam on the tip over. Mustangs scrambling to get a hold of it. Here comes a spike. Tip over across. Van Igdam dives for it. Martin able to get there. Collided with Richardson. Sylvie Scotts saves it and gets it over to Mustang territory. They spike it right down again. And Riley Martin able to get under it, but she sends it into the crowd. Point for the Mustangs. It's 16-12, as the Jacks lead it by 4. Delaney Vold serving now for SMSU. That's Van Igdam to Martin. Here's Ventling-Brown spiking to the back row. That's dug up by the Mustangs. Here's a tip over. Blocked by Taylor Bile up front. Mustangs setting something up again. Here comes the spike from the outside. That's out of bounds, the back line. Point for the Jacks. It's 17-12. Jacks by 5 here in set number 1. As Richardson, the libero for the Jackrabbits, back to serve this one. Richardson, that one to the back left corner. Here comes the spike across. That's barely in bounds, but it is in bounds. Point for SMSU. 17-13 the score. Jacks by 4. Serving now, it's Sydney Thine for the Mustangs. That one picked up by Scotts. Martin to Ventling-Brown on the outside. That's spiked down to the back row, dug up by the Mustangs. Here comes a spike across. That one out of bounds, the right sideline. Jackrabbits awarded the point. 18-13, Jacks by 5 here in set number 1. Aaliyah Schlimgen going to be back to serve this one for the Jackrabbits as they lead by 5 here. Mustangs able to get a hold of that one. Here comes the spike across. That's off the tip of the block. Sconce pops it up. Richardson bumps back towards center. Van Igdam able to tip it across. The Mustangs send back a spike, and that touched by Richardson before headed out of bounds. Mustangs with the point. It's 18-14. The Jacks by 4 here in set number 1. As Paige Steinmetz back to serve it for the Mustangs. This one to Van Igdem. Here's Martin setting up Madison Burr on the outside. That one dug up by the Mustangs somehow. Here comes another shot across, and Madison Burr denies him at the net. Point for the Jackrabbits off the block from Madison Burr. 19-14 as the Jackrabbits lead it here by 5 in set number 1. Rachel Weber back behind the line to serve this one. Weber, the fifth-year senior out of Northfield, Minnesota, serves this one to the back line of SMSU. Here comes a spike across. Slimgin can't dig that one up. And point for the Mustangs after that kill. It's 19-15. The Jackrabbits by 4. Service by Mackenzie Tolk for the Mustangs. There's Aaliyah Schlingen. Here's Riley Martin setting up Sconce on the outside. Sconce lays it down in bounds from the near side. Kill there for Sylvie Sconce. 20-15. The Jackrabbits by 5 here, coming to the end of the first set. Madison Burr back behind the line serving. Burr to the back row. Mustangs set up the spike. Dug up by Rachel Weber. That's sent right over to the Mustang side. Here comes another spike. Tip off the block by Sconson down on the Jackrabbit side. That one sent over by Carly Arkell, the middle blocker from Lamberton, Minnesota, for the Mustangs. Now serving Kennedy Drake for SMSU. Weber has to dive for it. Richardson gives over the free ball to the Mustangs. Here comes the set and the spike. That's off the tip of the block to Richardson. Here's Martin to Scott, sending a spike across. Gets it through the block, and the Mustangs able to dig it up. Richardson dives it and somehow gets the dig. Not able to pop it up high enough for Weber to get there in time. And that one falls on the Jackrabbit side. 20-17. Jacks lead it by 3 here in set number 1. Service by the Mustangs. Picked up by Schlimgin. Here's Martin to Sconce. Sconce finds open space in the middle of the court, and the kill for Sylvie Sconce. It's 21-17. The Jacks leading by 4. Riley Martin back behind the line to serve this one for the Jacks. This one headed to the back row middle. SMSU hits on number 2, direct set over. Bile digs it up. Sconce sends it back over. Blocked up front by Sconce, and it ends up on the Jackrabbit side out of bounds. Last touch by Sconce. It's 21-18 as the Jackrabbits lead it by 3 in set number 1. Maya Christoskek back serving. Here is Rachel Weber. Riley Martin, tip over by Taylor Bile. This one gets too close to that. It's Sylvie Sconce who's able to get up and set it down on the Mustang side. 22-18, Jacks by 4 after the kill by Sconce. It will be Sylvie Sconce back serving for the Jacks. This one barely clears the top of the net, but does. Able to be dug up by the Mustangs. Block up front, Taylor Bile, still in Mustang territory. There's a dig by Riley Martin. Here's Richardson to Van Igdem. Van Igdem spikes across. Somehow it's dug up by the Mustangs. They send back a spike of their own. Here's Richardson. Riley Martin with the setup for Sylvie Sconce from the back row. Spikes it across, set up by Riley Martin there. 23-18, excellent play there by Riley Martin and Sylvie Sconce for the kill. It's going to be Jackrabbits leading by 5 here in set number 1. Sylvie back behind the line serving. This one to the back row of the Mustangs. Here comes a spike across. That's blocked up front by Annalie Ventling-Brown and Taylor Bile for the point there for the Jackrabbits. 24-18. It's going to be set point in set number 1 for the Jackrabbits. Still Sylvie Sconce serving. This one into the net. Service error there. Still set point for the Jacks. 24-19 the score. Paige Steinmetz serving for SMSU. This one to Van Igdem. Here is Sconce back to Van Igdam. She able to get it over to the Mustang side. Here's a pop-up by Van Igdam and Ventling Brown to the back row. Mustangs all over it. They're going to send back a tip. That one dug up by Ventling Brown, who had to dive for it. Riley Martin to Sconce. Sconce to the back row after the spike. Here comes the spike. Blocked up front. Taylor Bile and Katie Van Igdam. Combination block there gives the Jacks the first set. It's 25-19. Final score of set number one. Jackrabbits lead 1-0 in this one. We'll take a break. Get right back here for set number two on Collegian Sports.
This portion of KSDJ 90.7's broadcast is brought to you by locally owned Brookings PowerQuest. Located in the University Mall at 820 22nd Avenue South, you can find everything your ride needs. From essential auto parts to top-notch accessories and customer service, PowerQuest is a one-stop shop for Brookings. Their phone number is 692-6298. PowerQuest is a proud sponsor of SDSU Student Radio, KSDJ 90.7.
So what's a great way to spread awareness that driving high is illegal everywhere? A catchy song, of course.
You can run, but you can't drive high. You can run, but you can't drive high.
Friendly reminder, don't drive high. If you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Support comes from the South Dakota Agricultural Heritage Museum in Brookings, inspiring a passion for the diverse history, culture, and science of agriculture in South Dakota. To learn more about exhibits and events, you can visit agmuseum.com.
Welcome back in here to First Bank and Trust Arena. I'm Ben Anderson with Collegian Sports. So glad to have you alongside me for this one, the spring exhibition match. The Jackrabbits taking on the Mustangs from Southwest Minnesota State University in this volleyball spring tournament. The Jackrabbits win set number 1, 25-19 over the Mustangs. Heading into set number two now. I think we're playing best of 5, if I had to guess. They kind of confused me last week with the Minnesota-Creighton games. Played against Minnesota best of 3 and then played against Creighton best of 5. But I think I have everything sorted out this time, but I've been proven wrong time and time again. But a beautiful day here in Brookings. Free to attend event here in First Bank and Trust Arena. A lot of the Jackrabbit faithful in the audience, as well as some fans from Marshall, Minnesota as well, cheering on the Mustangs. Great product that these ladies put out for volleyball throughout all of the regular season and even these spring tournament games. And it is such a privilege to be able to broadcast all of these for you. On May 3rd, we're going to be headed out to Ord, Nebraska to cover the spring tournament game. The Jackrabbits taking on the Huskers in Nebraska. We have the privilege of covering that one for you here on Collegian Sports. So if you want to listen to that match as well, tune in on May 3rd. The Jackrabbits are going to start with the service here on set number 2. And a score 1-0 as the Jackrabbits won set number 1. Looks like it's going to be Madison Burr back behind the line serving to start this one off. Set number 2 here of the spring exhibition match versus the Mustangs. Burr back to the back row. That one awkwardly off the hands of Krystowski, but they're able to send it right back. This one set down by Van Igdam on the outside. Kill there for the Jacks. It's 1-0 to start this one off in set number 2. Madison Burr still going to be serving. That one tips the top of the net into the tape and down on the Jackrabbit side. Service error there by Burr. It ties us up 1 apiece, set number 2. Service by the Mustangs. Martin over to Taylor Bile. Bile off the hands of the blockers and out of bounds. Point there for the Jacks. Megan Roggenkamp going to be back serving for the Jackrabbits. Service to the back row of SMSU. Here comes the tip across, gets above the block. Martin able to get a hand out there and pop it up for her teammate. They're able to send it right back. And here off the blocker of Taylor Bile and Riley Martin on the outside, sends it down into the Jackrabbit side there. Point for the Mustangs. Ties us up 2 apiece in set number 2. Mackenzie Tolk serving for the Mustangs. This one back to the libero Richardson. Here's Martin. Van Igdam spikes across. That's a diving dig by the Mustangs, tipping into empty space there. Good eyes by Ashley Pelter for the Mustangs. Found the open space on the near side of the net on the left. And Mackenzie Tolk still serving for the Mustangs. This one picked up by the back row, Roggenkamp. Martin to Bile. Bile blocked up front. The Jackrabbits able to dig that one. Van Igdam gets blocked again. It's still on the Jackrabbit side. Bile tips across. Somehow the Mustangs dig that one. That one spiked across out of bounds, the back line. And the Jackrabbits awarded the point on the attacking error there by the Mustangs. 3-all in set number 2. Katie Van Igdam is going to be back to serve it. Caitlin Van Kirk in the game now for the Jacks. The transfer student out of Boise State, coming from Bozeman, Montana. The sophomore joining the team for this next regular season. Excited to see what Caitlin Van Kirk can do for the Jackrabbits. Point awarded for the Mustangs off the service error. It's 4-3 now. The Mustangs by 1, and the Jackrabbits able to spike across there into empty space, get the point. Ties us up at 4 apiece in set number 2. Jocelyn Richardson back behind the line serving for the Jacks. Richardson over. That's dug up by the Mustangs, and a bad set there as they're able to tip it over. Madison Burr sends it right back into the Mustangs. Here's Martin setting up Van Kirk, and Van Kirk gets a kill on the outside. There for the Jackrabbits, 5-4 as the Jacks lead by 1 here in set number 2. Richardson still back behind the line serving. Richardson with the service to the left side. Here comes a spike. That's into the block of Riley Martin. Here's a behind the back set over to the Jackrabbit side. They're able to return it. Free ball for the Mustangs, and they send it out of bounds. First touch by the block, they're going to say. Point for the Mustangs. Ties us up at 5 apiece in set number 2. Christosik back serving for the Mustangs. This one picked up by Roggenkamp. Here's Martin. Here's Madison Burr with the hammer from the outside. Madison Burr. 6-5, the Jacks take the lead of 1 after the kill by Madison Burr. Riley Martin will be back serving. Madison Burr this regular season, a freshman, and the 2024-2025 season for the Jacks. Had an amazing year. This one tipped over, and Riley Martin gonna set it over on hit number 2 into empty space. Good eyes there by Martin, and the kill for the Jacks, 7-5. Jacks lead by 2. Martin's still going to be serving for the yellow and blue. Service to the back right corner. Popped up by the Mustangs. Here comes a spike across. That's off the arms of Martin and sent backwards into the crowd. The Mustangs with the point. 7-6 the scores. The Jacks leading by 1 in set number 2. That one short into the net. Sent by Delaney Vold for the Mustangs. Service error gives the Jackrabbits the point. It's 8-6. Jacks by 2 in set number 2. Rachel Weber is number 2, and she's back behind the line serving. This one awkwardly dug off the bump, and the Mustangs aren't going to get it over in 3 hits. Service by Rachel Weber, able to force the error by the Mustangs. It's 9-6 as the Jacks lead by 3. Weber on the service again. Here comes the tip across and into empty space as Riley Martin tries to dive for that one. Can't quite get under it. It's 9-7. Jackrabbits by 2. Sydney Thine from Clara City, Minnesota, serving for the Mustangs. This one picked up by Richardson. Here's Riley Martin over to Van Igdem. Van Igdem blocked up front. Ventling Brown pops it up. Here's Martin again. Ventling Brown on the left side. That one across the block. Tip over by the Mustangs. Ventling Brown gets an arm on it, but can't pop it up. It's 9-8 as the Jacks lead down to 1 here in set number 2. Still Sydney Thine serving for the Mustangs. As we wait for the shoes to get tied here. Here's Richardson with the dig. Martin to Ventling Brown. Ventling Brown spikes across. Mustangs send back a tip. That's to Weber. And Richardson gives the free ball over to the Mustangs. Here comes a spike. That's in open space on the Jackrabbit logo. Richardson, the closest Jackrabbit, not able to get under it, ties us up at 9 apiece in set number 2. As the Mustangs start to go on a run here, Sydney Thine still serving for the Mustangs. Popped up by Richardson. Set over to Van Igdem, and Van Igdem into the block and out of bounds. Point for the Jacks. Point for the Jacks as there's some confusion, as SMSU thought they had won that point. The Jackrabbits 10, SMSU 9. The Jacks lead by 1. Aaliyah Schlimgen serving. That one to the middle back row. This one set over on number 2. Schlimgen dives for it, can't get under it. SMSU takes back the point, and it's 10-all here in set number 2. Service by the Mustangs. That's picked up by Weber. Here's Martin to Ventling Brown on the right side. That blocked up front and not able to get popped up by the Jackrabbits. Point for the Mustangs. They take a lead of 1. It's 11-10. Jacks down in set number 2. Service to the back row. That's Rachel Weber. Here's Martin to Taylor Bile. Bile spikes across. Mustangs dig it up. They send back a spike, and that's going to be out of bounds on the right sideline. Point for the Jacks, tied up 11 apiece in set number 2. This one a little bit closer than the first set. It's Megan Roggenkamp back behind the line serving for the Jackrabbits. This one into the tape and down on the Jackrabbit side. Service error there by Roggenkamp gives the Mustangs their lead back. It's 12-11. Mackenzie Tolk is going to be serving for the Mustangs. This one served to Roggenkamp. Roggenkamp to Martin. Martin to Van Igdem. Van Igdem across off the tip of the blockers and then out of bounds. SMSU touched it last, and the Jackrabbits get the point. It tied up at 12 apiece now in set number 2. Katie Van Igdem going to be serving this one for the Jacks. That one goes to the back right corner. Knuckles off awkwardly off the dig there. And a service ace there for Van Igdem. It's 13-12. Jacks by 1. Van Igdam with the service. That's to the back row middle. Here's the set and the spike over. That's Roggenkamp getting an arm on it. Riley Martin couldn't quite get under that bump up by Roggenkamp. And we're back at tied up at 13. It's set number 2. The Jackrabbits took the first set. Service by the Mustangs, and there's going to be a service ace for Kennedy Drake, who's serving for SMSU. They take a lead of 1. It's 14-13. Service by Drake, picked up by Roggenkamp. Martin all the way across. Van Kirk tips across. Here is a spike down, and Richardson can't dig it up. That one sent over by Paige Steinmetz for SMSU, and the Jackrabbits forced to take a timeout. Mustangs 15, Jacks 13, timeout. We'll be right back in about 30 seconds here on Collegian Sports.
This portion of KSDJ 90.7's broadcast is brought to you by D.O. Bike and Fitness. Located at 1738 6th Street in Brookings, South Dakota, D.O. is a place for all things bikes. Offering top brands such as Trap and Electra, this close-to-campus store has both bike and e-bike options. Remember, you can't buy happiness, but you can buy a bike, and that's pretty close. 692-2022 is the number to call for this full-service and sales store. D.O. is a proud sponsor of SDSU Student Radio KSDJ 90.7.
Welcome back into First Bank and Trust Arena. I'm Ben Anderson with Collegian Sports. So glad to have you alongside me for this one, the exhibition match. The Mustangs from Marshall, Minnesota, taking on your South Dakota State University Jackrabbits here. The Jacks took set number 1, and we're in set number 2 now as the Mustangs lead it 15-13 over the Jacks. Head coach Dan Georgalis just used his first time out of the game, as the Mustangs serve it to Richardson this time. Martin sets up Van Kirk on the outside. Van Kirk spikes across through the block, picked up by the Mustangs. Here is Van Igdam on the dig. Martin to Bile, tipping across, and Bile gonna earn the Jacks the free ball as Van Kirk gets the setup from Martin and spikes it down. Caitlin Van Kirk with the kill, set up by Riley Martin, and the Jackrabbits get the first point after the timeout. It's 15-14. The Jackrabbits still in a 1-point deficit. Jocelyn Richardson, the libero for the Jackrabbits, going to be serving. That picked up by the back row of the Mustangs. Here comes a spike. That's blocked up front. Riley Martin able to block it up front, and as the Mustangs were returning it, they sent it too far to the right, out of bounds. Ties us up at 15 apiece. The Jackrabbits crawling back in the second set. Jocelyn Richardson able to be on the serve here. Here comes a spike across out of bounds off the back line. Point for the Jacks. 16-15. Jacks by 1 now in set number 2. Jocelyn Richardson still serving. Richardson shallow off the top of the net and short serve there, able to get the service ace. Jocelyn Richardson. 17-15, the Jackrabbits by 2 here in set number 2. Richardson still on the serve. That's to the back line. The Mustangs send back a spike. That's dug up by Richardson. Here's Riley Martin setting up Van Kirk on the left side. That one to the back row, bumped up by the Mustangs. Here is a block up front by Riley Martin. Going back to the same side, that's Madison Burr on the block that time. Madison Burr and Riley Martin on the right side. Back-to-back blocks for the Jacks. It's 18-15, the Jackrabbits by 3 in set number 2. Jocelyn Richardson on a roll, still serving for the yellow and blue. Richardson to the back right corner. That knuckles off awkwardly. The Mustangs have to scramble for it, and a free ball for the Jacks. Richardson to Martin on the direct set on 2. The Mustangs dig it up that time. Here comes a spike across. That's blocked up front by Burr. Ends up on the Jackrabbit side. Van Kirk tips across. That's just a little wide to the left and out of bounds. Off the tip by Van Kirk. Point for the Mustangs. It's 18-16. Jacks by 2 is set number 2. Maya Christosek back to serve for the Mustangs. This one picked up by Megan Roggenkamp. Here's Martin to Madison Burr. Tries to tip across, gets caught up in the block. Van Kirk into the block again. And on the right side, the Jacks blocked. On the left side, the Jacks get blocked again. And a point for the Mustangs. It's 18-17. Jacks lead by 1 in set number 2. Christosek still serving. That's picked up by Roggenkamp. Here's Martin to Van Kirk on the left side, and Van Kirk able to find space on the Mustang side. And the kill for Caitlin Van Kirk, the transfer out of Boise State. It's 19-17. The Jackrabbits by 2 in set number 2. Riley Martin going to be back to serve this one. Dug up by the Mustangs. They set it over on hit number 2. Richardson not able to get close enough to that one. Mustangs with the kill there. It's 19-18. The Jackrabbits lead it by 1 in set number 2. As believe that is Kenna Bigsby back serving for the Mustangs. Here is Martin to Van Kirk, able to get through the block, somehow dug up in the back row there by Drake for the Mustangs. This one a diving dig for Van Kirk, spiked across, and the Mustangs scramble for it. Tipped up front, Burr able to pop it up after her failed block, and Martin gets there but can't send it back into play for the Jacks. It's 19 all here in set number 2 as the Mustangs get that last point. Kenna Bigsby still back to serve it for the Mustangs. This one, Martin bumps to Van Kirk. Van Kirk spikes over. The Mustangs able to dig it. They send back a spike of their own. That's out of bounds on the back line. And a point for the Jacks. It's 20-19 in this narrow set number 2. The Jackrabbits lead by 1. Rachel Weber back behind the line to serve it. Weber, the 5th-year senior out of Northfield. This one picked up by the Mustangs. Here's a spike across, block up front. Ventling Brown sends it to the right sideline out of bounds. Last touched by Ventling Brown. Point for the Mustangs, tied up at 20 apiece in set number 2. Sydney Thine from Clara City, Minnesota, serving for the Mustangs. Here is Martin, tip across by Burr. Mustangs dig it up. They send back a spike. That's picked up by Weber in the back row. Here's Martin to Ventling Brown on the right side. That one somehow dug up there by Thine. The Mustangs attacking error into the net. Christosek put that one too low. The Jackrabbits get the point after the error. It's 21-20. The Jackrabbits lead by 1 in set number 2. Aaliyah Schlimgen back behind the line serving for the Jacks. This one picked up by the back row, set up the tip, and Van Egdom able to dig it up. Martin to Ventling Brown. Ventling Brown spikes it down, and Thine can't quite pop it up enough for her teammates. Point for the Jacks. 22-20 as the Jackrabbits lead this set number 2 by 2. The Mustangs going to use their first timeout of the game. We'll take it with them. Be right back here in about 30 seconds on Collegiate Sports.
This portion of KSDJ 90.7's broadcast is brought to you by D.O. Bike and Fitness. Located at 1738 6th Street in Brooklyn, South Dakota, D.O. is a place for all things bikes. Offering top brands such as Trek and Electra, this close-to-campus store has both bike and e-bike options. Remember, you can't buy happiness, but you can buy a bike, and that's pretty close. 692-2022 is the number to call for this full-service and sales store. DO is a proud sponsor of SDSU Student Radio KSDJ 90.7.
Welcome back into First Bank and Trust Arena. I'm Ben Anderson with Collegiate Sports. The narrow set number 2 as the Jackrabbits lead this one 22-20. Aaliyah Schlimgid back behind the line to serve. This one after the timeout by SMSU. This one picked up by the back line. And a spike out of bounds on the left line. Point for the Jacks. An error there by the Mustangs. 23-20. The Jacks lead set number 2 by 3. This set has been a battle throughout between these two teams. The Jackrabbits won set number 1, 25-19 over the Mustangs. Schlimgin, service ace there as she sends it short. Makes it set point here in set number 2 for the Jackrabbits. It's 24-20 over the Mustangs. Schlimgin after the ace, still back behind the line to serve it. And here's the serve by Schlimgin. That's picked up by the back row for the Mustangs. Here comes the spike across. That's blocked up front, Ventling Brown, but it's sent too far to the right and out of bounds. Point for the Mustangs. It's still set point here in set number 2 for the Jacks. 24-21 the score. Service by the Mustangs. I believe that was Leah Jones. Here's Martin to Taylor Bile. The Jacks not able to dig it up as Martin only got one hand on it, sent it into the right pylon. Point for SMSU. It's 24-22 in this narrow second set. The Jacks lead it by 2. It's still set point for the Jacks. Here's the serve. And Martin to Ventling Brown again. Ventling Brown sets it outside of the back line, out of bounds. Point for the Mustangs, 24-23. The Jacks lead by 1. It's still set point for the Jacks, and Dan Georgalis, the head coach for the Rabbits, going to take a timeout here. We'll take it with them. Be back in about 30 seconds on Collegiate Sports.
This portion of KSDJ 90.7's broadcast is brought to you by locally owned Brookings PowerQuest. Located in the University Mall at 820 22nd Avenue South, you can find everything your ride needs. From essential auto parts to top-notch accessories and customer service, PowerQuest is a one-stop shop for Brookings. Their phone number is 692-6298. PowerQuest is a proud sponsor of SDSU Student Radio, KSDJ 90.7.
Welcome back after the short break. I'm Ben Anderson with Collegiate Sports. So glad to have you alongside me for the spring exhibition game. Volleyball, the Jackrabbits taking on SMSU from Marshall. The Jacks have set point. It's 24-23. Marshall on the service. Weber awkwardly off the dig there. Richardson sends it back into play. Weber over. Free ball for the Mustangs. Spike into the block of Van Igdam and sent out of bounds to the left. Point for the Mustangs makes it 24-24 in set number 2 as the Mustangs on a roll late in this one. Service for the Mustangs picked up by Weber. Here's Martin setting up Bile. Bile's blocked up front. Weber sets up Van Igdam. Van Igdam sends a spike over. That's out the back line. Point for the Mustangs as they're now on a 5-point run over the Jackrabbits in set number 2. Leah Jones still serving for SMSU, and the Mustangs lead at 25-24. It's now set point for the Mustangs. Blocked up front as Ventling Brown tried to spike it across, and the Mustangs are going to take set number 2 over the Jackrabbits. 26-24, the final score of that set, as the Jacks get one taken off by the Mustangs. Ties us up at 1-1 in sets. We'll be back for set number 3 in a couple of minutes here on Collegiate Sports. Stick around for that in a couple of minutes.
Are you prepared for an emergency or disaster? Because it's not a matter of if, but when. Don't find yourself saying,
when the storm rolls in, my time to find a pet-friendly evacuation center will have run out.
The scorching heat wave will leave me powerless to cool my insulin.
I'll face a hurricane without meds. Now that's a tough pill to swallow.
Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Get started at ready.gov/older adults. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Babes, what are you doing?
What? I'm just mowing the lawn.
No, it's blazing hot and dry out here. Don't you remember? Smokey Bear says.
Avoid using power equipment when it's windy or dry.
Where'd you learn this?
Oh, it's on
SmokeyBear.com with many other wildfire prevention tips.
Right. Thanks, Honey Bear.
Because remember, only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Support comes from the South Dakota Agricultural Heritage Museum in Brookings, inspiring a passion for the diverse history, culture, and science of agriculture in South Dakota. To learn more about exhibits and events, you can visit agmuseum.com.
Welcome back in here to First Bank and Trust Arena for set number 3 of the spring exhibition game here in Brookings. The Jackrabbits taking on the SMSU Mustangs from Marshall. The Jackrabbits just lost a narrow set number 2 to the Mustangs, 26-24, as the Mustangs crawled back from down by 4. The score was 24-20 when the Mustangs started their run, and able to score 6 points in a row over the Jackrabbits and take set number 2 there in extra points. The Jackrabbits won set number 1, 25-19, so we're tied up at 1-1 here for set number 3. I believe we're playing best of 5 here in First Bank and Trust Arena. So glad to have you alongside me for this one. The Jackrabbits making a couple changes fundamentally here. Jocelyn Richardson typically wearing the libero jersey. She's switched out into the blue and yellow uniform, and now it will be Rachel Weber and Aaliyah Schlimgen in the libero garb of yellow with blue numbers. As I believe Dan Georgialis, the head coach for the Jacks, just getting some players into different positions here for a little bit of practice leading up to the 2025-26 regular season. The Mustangs will start off with the service here in set number 3. As this one starts to get interesting here in Brookings. Nice light crowd here for this evening game. As Sydney Thine service over. Here's the tip across by Finley Westover. For the Jacks, that one off the fingertips of Annalie Ventling-Brown's block up front and then down on the Jackrabbit side. And the Mustangs score the first point of the third set. It's going to be 1-0. Mustangs on top of this one. And Thine with the service that picked up by Weber now in the libero garb. Here's Caitlin Van Kirk with a spike across. The Mustangs dig it up. They send back a spike of their own. That's set up by Van Igdam. Here's Westover tipping across, finding it open space. It's Finley Westover with the kill there for the Jackrabbits. Westover, the 6'2 junior out of Bourbonnais, Illinois. Jocelyn Richardson will serve it for the Jacks as we're tied up at 1 apiece here in set number 3. That one bumped into the net, and the Mustangs able to recover there sent back over by the Jackrabbits. Here's another spike across. Westover gets one hand on it. Martin sets up Van Igdam. Van Igdam blocked up front there by Ashley Peltier. And the Mustangs up by 1 now. It's 2-1 in set number 3. Leah Jones serving for the Mustangs. That's picked up by Weber. Here's Martin and the spike down by Ventling Brown. She's going to get the kill there. 2-all in set number 3 after the kill by Annalie Ventling Brown. She'll be back to serve it for the Jacks. Beautiful evening in Brookings. 60s and 70s all day here. And sunny. Service by Ventling Brown, dug up by the Mustangs, and they send it in the block of Taylor Bile and Van Igdam, and no Jackrabbits in the area to pop it up as it got through the block. And the Mustangs with the point. It's 3-2. Mustangs up by 1. Service tips the top of the net, sent over by Mackenzie Tolk, and the Jackrabbits aren't in position to get that one short. 4-2. Jacks down by 2 now as after the service ace by Tolk. Tolk still serving. This one picked up by Van Igdam. Here's Martin on the setup for Westover. Westover sends a spike. And here's the Mustangs sending one right back. That's blocked up front, Taylor Bile and Van Igdam. Mustangs send one back the same direction. Richardson on the dig. Van Igdam set up by Martin. Martin bumps it up. Here's Weber. Van Igdam again. That one blocked again. And Weber able to save that one, sending it back to the Mustang side. That one, a spike. And Richardson gets under it, but she can't get it accurately anywhere. That one darts off to the right into the crowd. SMSU starts off hot in set number 3. It's 5-2 as they lead over the Jackrabbits by 3. Just won a narrow set number 2, 26-24 over the Jacks. It's still Mackenzie Tolk serving. Here's Weber bumping it up for Richardson. Here's Van Igdam. Van Igdam gets blocked up front that time by Carly Arkell and Ashley Peltier. Jackrabbits can't get anything going here, it seems, at the beginning of this third set as the Mustangs lead 6-2. Tolk still serving. This one to Richardson. Martin running over to bump it up for Van Igdam. Here comes the spike back across. That's out of bounds, the back line. As Richardson called it. It's 6-3 after the error by the Mustangs. Jacks are still down by 3. Riley Martin back behind the line serving. Martin served to the back middle. Mustangs set up the spike. That's to Riley Martin on the dig. Schlimgen bumps it up for Van Igdam. Van Igdam clears the block, gets it into the back row for the Mustangs. They send over a tip. Burr gets a finger on it. Here's Martin setting up Burr. That one over to the Mustangs. They dig it up again. Here comes a spike. That's into the block of Van Igdam and Taylor Bile. And they're able to get the kill for the Jackrabbits there as it sheared off to the right off the block and down on the Mustang side. 6-4. Jackrabbits down by 2 here in set number 3 as they start to make their way back with Riley Martin serving. This one picked up by the back row for the Mustangs. Here comes the spike, blocked up front Van Igdam, and it tips the pylon on the left side. Point for the Mustangs. 7-4. The Jackrabbits down by 3 now. Set number 3. And Kennedy Drake, the Marshall, Minnesota native, going to be serving for the Mustangs. Weber bumps it up. Here's Martin to Madison. Burr on the right side. Burr shot dug up. Here comes a tip, and that's right over the block of Burr, and Riley Martin can't quite get there in time. The Mustangs with the kill there. It's going to be 8-4. The Jackrabbits are down by 4. Kennedy Drake still serving for Marshall. Here is Weber. Inaccurate dig makes Martin have to run for it. Van Igdam gets over to the Mustang side. Here is Martin with the dig. Weber to Burr. Burr gets blocked up front, but that block gets it sent out of bounds to the right. Point for the Jackrabbits after the block error by the Mustangs. It's 8-5. The Jackrabbits down by 3 now. Katie Van Igdem will serve. Van Igdem from the back line. That's picked up by the back right corner. Here it's right over to the Jackrabbit side. Burr setting up Van Kirk. Van Kirk blocked up front. That time Carly Arkell again. Sydney Thine up there as well. 9-5. Jackrabbits down by 4 in set number 3. As Van Kirk gets blocked on the left side. Service from the Marshall Mustangs. Here is Madison Burr on the right side, able to get one in open space. The kill there for Burr. It's 9-6. The Jackrabbits down by 3. Hopefully that shot by Burr lights a fire under this team in the third set. Aaliyah Schlimgen going to be serving for SDSU. That one picked up by Kennedy Drake for the Mustangs. Schlimgen diving for the dig, and she sends it too close to the net. Ventling Brown couldn't get anything substantial there. The Mustangs with the point. It's 10-6. The Jackrabbits down by 4 in set number 3. Kenna Bigsby is going to be serving for the Mustangs. There is Van Igdem to Martin, and Van Kirk sends a heater across. Can't be dug up by the Mustangs. A kill for Caitlin Van Kirk. It's going to be 10-7. The Jackrabbits down by 3, set number 3. Riley Martin back behind the line to serve this one. Martin's serve is to the back row middle. They send it right over the Jackrabbit side. That's tipped back over by Ventling Brown. Blocked by Ventling Brown up front. Ends up on the Jackrabbit side. And no Jackrabbits in the area to dig it up. It's 11-7. The Jackrabbits down by 4 here in set number 3. Number 4, Sydney Thine back serving for SMSU. Picked up by Weber. Here's Martin setting up Westover on the left side. That's dug up by the Mustangs. They're going to send back a spike. That's blocked up front by Caitlin Van Kirk on the right side. Van Kirk gets a square block, and it ends up down on the SMU side. It's 11-8. The Jackrabbits down by 3, set number 3. Jocelyn Richardson going to be serving. And the Mustangs having a problem returning this one. Richardson able to dig it up. Here's Westover, and she spikes it in bounds. The back left corner. Excellent position there by Westover. 11-9. Jackrabbits down by 2 now, starting to come back in the third set. It's Jocelyn Richardson on the serve. Clears the middle of the net. Here comes a spike. That's a hard spike sent there into Schlimgen. She can't accurately dig that one. Leah Jones, also a Marshall, Minnesota native, going to be serving for Southwest Minnesota State. Here is Weber on the dig. Riley Martin to Westover on the right side. She gets it across the block. And a tip into the block. Ventling Brown and Van Igdem there. The ball drops right in front of them on the Jackrabbit side. Point for the Mustangs. It's 13-9. The Jackrabbits down by 4. Here's the service. Weber bumps it up for Martin. Martin Van Igdem gets into trouble there. The set by Martin too close to the net. Ashley Peltier able to get a hand on it, going up against Van Igdem, and the Mustangs win that battle that time. It's 14-9. Jackrabbits down by 5. Martin sets up Ventling Brown, and Ventling Brown sends a heater somehow dug up there by the Mustangs. There's a block up front by Westover. That one a diving dig by Riley Martin. Bump to Van Igdem on the tip over. Here comes a tip that's blocked by Ventling Brown. And the second tip goes into empty space over the block from Ventling Brown. 15-9, Jackrabbits down by 6 now in set number 3. This one's Weber digging it up. Westover on the right side sends a spike across. That's dug up by the back row of the Mustangs. Here's a block up front by Van Igdam. And Riley Martin direct set on hit number 2. The Mustangs dig it up. Here to the back row, it's Richardson. Martin setting up Westover. Westover to the Mustang side, and an attacking error there by Emily Rohrer, who set it too far to her left, and no teammates in the area. Point for the Jacks. It's 15-10. Jackrabbits going to be down by 5. As we're going to have a timeout here called by the Mustangs. 15-10, Mustangs lead it by 5 here in set number 3. We'll be right back here in about 30 seconds on Collegian Sports.
This portion of KSDJ 90.7's broadcast is brought to you by D.O. Bike and Fitness. Located at 1738 6th Street in Brookings, South Dakota, D.O. is a place for all things bikes. Offering top brands such as Trek and Electra, this close-to-campus store has both bike and e-bike options. Remember, you can't buy happiness, but you can buy a bike, and that's pretty close. 692-2022 is the number to call for this full-service and sales store. D.O. is a proud sponsor of SDSU Student Radio KSDJ 90.7.
Welcome back into First Bank and Trust Arena. I'm Ben Anderson with Collegian Sports. So glad to have you alongside me for this one, the spring exhibition game here in First Bank and Trust Arena. The Mustangs lead set number 3, 15-10 over the Jackrabbits. Just a strong battle here between these two teams here in set number 3. The Mustangs narrowly won set number 2, 26-24 over the Jacks. The Jackrabbits won set number 1, 25-19 over the Mustangs. We're tied up at 1 set apiece between these two teams, and the Mustangs leading in set number 3. Megan Roggenkamp will be back serving for the Jackrabbits after the timeout from SMSU. Here comes a spike across. That's dug up by Jocelyn Richardson. Martin here to Westover, who spikes down to the back row. This one sent right back over Van Igdam. Martin, here is Bile, who gets blocked up front. Here's Martin again, setting up Richardson this time. That's a spike across from Jocelyn. Here is a spike into the right pylon from SMSU. Point for the Jacks. 15-11, the score now after the point off the error. Jacks down by 4. Roggenkamp still serving. Diving dig for the Mustangs. Here is Martin on the dig. Roggenkamp to Westover, who tips into the block. Westover pops it up again. Roggenkamp bumps it up for Van Igdam. Van Igdam into the block. Here's another save by Roggenkamp. Westover able to spike across into the back row now. Mustangs dig it. They send back a spike of their own. Martin dives forward. Roggenkamp pops it up. Here's Van Igdam spiking to the back row. That's dug up easily by the Mustangs. Roggenkamp saves it again. Here's Martin with the setup for Richardson. Richardson tips it into the middle. Empty space. Jocelyn Richardson ends that volley with the smart play. 15-12. Jacks down by 3 now in set number 3. Megan Roggenkamp going to be serving once again for SDSU. This one to the back row. Popped up by the Mustangs. Here is a spike into Roggenkamp. She can't save that one off of her bump. It heads back into the crowd. 16-12. Jacks down by 4, set number 3. Mackenzie Tolk back to serve it for SMSU. That serve to Weber. Here's Martin setting up Bile, and Bile gets blocked up front by Carly Arkell. And the Mustangs get the point. It's 17-12. The Jacks down by 5 here in set number 3. Mackenzie Tolk going to be serving once again. Here's Rachel Weber. Martin on the set. Here's Van Igdam. Gets through the block, and SMSU digs it. Weber gets it in her shoulder after the spike by SMSU, and it ricochets off. And the Mustangs with the point there. It's 18-12. Jackrabbits down by 6 in set number 3. Mackenzie Tolk going to be serving for the Mustangs once again. Here is Weber, and that's off the front of her knuckles as she dives for it. An ace there for Tolk. It's 19-12. The Jackrabbits down by 7 now. Mackenzie Tolk still serving. This one to Weber again. She bumps it up. Riley Martin to Taylor Bile, and Bile able to get through the block for the point there. 19-13, Jacks down by 6. Riley Martin will be serving now for the yellow and blue. Martin on the service. This one to the back row on the left side. Here is a setup and a tip over. That's Burr on the bump. Martin on the set. Van Igdam tips it over. That's picked up by the back row. They dig it up. Here is Marshall on the spike over. That tips the top of the net. Dug up by Van Igdam. Here is Taylor Bile sending a spike too far to the right out of bounds on the right sideline. Point for the Mustangs. 20-13. Jackrabbits down by 7 in set number 3. Service by Kennedy Drake. That's to Weber. Here's Martin to Burr, and that's blocked up front. Back to the Jackrabbit side. Burr once again. This one gets to the back row. Set on hit number 2. Martin able to pop it up as she collided with Rachel Weber on the ground, and that sent the ball awkwardly careening to the left. No Jackrabbits in the area. Point for SMSU. It's 21-13. The Jackrabbits down by 8 now. Service by Kennedy Drake, and awkwardly off the forearms of Weber as Martin not able to get any purchase for the set. 22-13, the Jackrabbits down by 9 now. Jacks still with both of their timeouts for this set. Here is Martin setting up Burr. Burr sends a heater untouched by they're going to say it was touched by the block up front for SMSU. Point for the Jacks, 22-14. The Jackrabbits down by 8 now in set number 3. Katie Van Igdam will be serving for SDSU. Service to the back row for the Mustangs. Here is Martin on the dig. Schlimgen over to Van Kirk. Van Kirk tips above the block on the left side. Here comes the tip over. Martin able to dig it up. Van Igdam with the bump to Van Kirk again on the left side, and that one into the block and out of bounds. Van Kirk gets it done for the Jacks. 22-15. Jacks down by 7. Going to be hard to come back here late in the third set. But it's Van Igdam serving, and that one tips the tape. And service error there for Katie Van Igdam. 23-15. Jackrabbits down by 8 here. Paige Steinmetz serving for SMSU, and there's a service ace as Rachel Weber and Caitlin Van Kirk have a miscommunication on the left side. That ball curved and got between them. It's now set point for SMSU at 24-15 over the Jackrabbits. This one out of bounds, service error there for Steinmetz. 24-16, Jacks down by 8. It's still going to be set point here in set number 3 for SMSU. Aaliyah Schlimgen will be serving for the Jacks. This service picked up by the back row for SMSU. Here's this spike blocked up front. Madison Burr on the right side with the block there. 24-17, Jacks down by 7. Still Schlimgen serving. This one to the back left corner. Mustangs send back a spike. That's dug up by Van Igdam, but it's going to head out of bounds to the right. And the Mustangs are going to take set number 3, 25-17 over the Jackrabbits. And now they lead this match 2-1 sets over the Jacks. They won set number 2, 26-24, and then set number 3, 25-17. The Jackrabbits only took set number 1, 25-19 over the Mustangs. Got to get something changed here for set number 4. We'll be back for that in about 2 minutes. Stick around.
So what's a great way to spread awareness that driving high is illegal everywhere? A catchy song, of course.
You can run, but you can't drive high. You can run, but you can't drive high.
Friendly reminder, don't drive high. If you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
This portion of KSDJ 90.7's broadcast is brought to you by locally owned Brookings PowerQuest. Located in the University Mall at 820 22nd Avenue South, you can find everything your ride needs. From essential auto parts to top-notch accessories and customer service, PowerQuest is a one-stop shop for Brookings. Their phone number is 692-6298. PowerQuest is a proud sponsor of SDSU Student Radio, KSDJ 90.7.
Support comes from the South Dakota Agricultural Heritage Museum in Brookings, inspiring a passion for the diverse history, culture, and science of agriculture in South Dakota. To learn more about exhibits and events, you can visit agmuseum.com.
Welcome back in to First Bank and Trust Arena. I'm Ben Anderson with Collegiate Sports. So glad to have you alongside me for this one. The Jackrabbits starting to show a little bit of falter here through the first 3 sets as SMSU takes set number 2 and set number 3 over the Jackrabbits. The Jacks have only taken set number 1. SMSU leads 2-1 sets as we start off set number 4. The Jackrabbits will have the service to start this one off. And something needs to change here for the yellow and blue, as this could be the last set of the game if the Jackrabbits don't make an impact here. Set number 4 just about to get underway. As we wait for the good to go from the referee. And we get the server for the Jacks. We're going to have Katie Van Igdam back behind the line to serve it to start off set number 4 for the Jackrabbits. Jackrabbits are missing a player out there. Only had 5 on the court. Rachel Weber joins the action. Van Igdam going to serve it. This one picked up by the back line for the Mustangs. Here comes a spike across. That's dug up by Van Igdam. Here's Riley Martin setting up Bile. Bile gets blocked up front. That's dug up by Weber. Nice dig there. Here's Westover on the left side, spiking to the back row for the Mustangs. Here comes a spike that's blocked up front. Taylor Bile gets the first point for the Jackrabbits. Nice block in the middle there for Bile, the redshirt freshman out of Sioux Falls. Katie Van Igdam going to be serving here for the Jacks. This one served to the back right corner, played by the Mustangs. Here's a tip over. That's Van Igdam with a set. Here is Martin setting up Westover on the left side. That's spiked across. Westover, here's a tip by the Mustangs, and they can't clear it over the Jackrabbits side in 3 hits. 2-0 to start off set number 4. The Jackrabbits leading. Van Igdam still going to be serving. That one tips the top of the net. Clears over to the Mustang side. Blocked by Taylor Bile again. She gets the kill. Sends it over to empty space. Mustangs aren't ready for it. And Taylor Bile gets another point on the board for the Jacks. It's 3-0 as the Jackrabbits lead this one in set number 4. This is a must-win set for the Jacks. Here's a spike blocked up front again. It's Taylor Bile. Another one up front for Taylor Bile. And it's 4-0. The Jackrabbits lead over the Mustangs in set number 4. Van Igdam still serving. This one to the middle back row for the Mustangs. Here comes a spike over on the right side. That's Riley Martin this time with a block on the right side for the Jackrabbits. 5-0. Jackrabbits off hot here in set number 4. Van Igdam serving from the back line. This one, back row middle for the Mustangs. Here's a tip over the block of Bile. Martin bumps. Here's Slimgin to Westover on the left side. Westover able to clear it. Sends it right back to the Mustang side. Here's Martin on the dig. Slimgin bumps it up for Westover left side. There's a spike down for Finley Westover. And she gets the kill there for the Jacks. It's 6-0. Shutting out SMSU to start off set number 4 in a must-win set for the Jacks. It's still going to be Katie Van Igdam serving for the yellow and blue. This one knuckles off awkwardly, and there's a free ball for Rachel Weber. Martin back to Taylor Bile, tipping across. Here comes the spike, blocked up front, Westover and Bile, but they send it too far to the left out of bounds. And a point there for SMSU. It makes it 6-1 to start off set number 4. The Jackrabbits went on a 6-point run there to start it off. And it will be Leah Jones serving for the Mustangs. That's to Van Igdam. Here's Martin Westover on the left side, gets blocked up front by Ashley Peltier. Point for the Mustangs, 6-2 the score. Jackrabbits going to be up by 4. Set number 4, still going to be Jones serving. Here's Slimgin. Martin on hit number 2 over. The Mustangs send back a spike. That's blocked by Bile, ends up on the Jackrabbits side. Here's Westover tipping above the block. Mustangs diving for it. Here comes the spike. Here is the pop-up, Rachel Weber. Slimgin over to Westover. This down on the Mustang side. Finley Westover with the kill there. It's 7-2. The Jackrabbits lead by 5 in set number 4. Aaliyah Schlimgin will be serving once again. Schlimgin on the service. This is the back row middle for SMSU. Here's the setup and the spike across. That clears the top of the net. Schlimgin can't quite get under it. Point for SMSU. It's 7-3. Jackrabbits lead by 4, set number 4. Here's Mackenzie Tolk back behind the line serving for SMSU. She's from Minneota, Minnesota. Weber bumps it up. Martin to Westover. Westover blocked up front again. Ran into Ashley Peltier. They're going to say that one went out of bounds. That one was close to the left sideline. They say it is out of bounds. 8-3. Jackrabbits lead by 5. Set number 4. Must-win set for the Jacks here. It's Riley Martin on the service. That's the back row middle for Marshall. This one short over. Free ball for the Jacks. Here is Van Kirk tipping across. And this one over to Van Kirk again. Ventling Brown bumps it up. Westover's going to get a chance to spike it across. Picked up by the back row for SMSU. Here comes a spike off the fingertips of the block. Dug up by Van Igdam. Here is Martin to Ventling Brown. Ventling Brown gets blocked up front there by Carly Arkell. Point for the Mustangs. It's 8-4. Jacks lead by 4. Kenna Bigsby will be serving for the Mustangs. Bigsby, that's over to Schlimgin, Martin over to Ventling Brown. Ventling Brown tries to find empty space on the tip. Dug up by the Mustangs, and Van Igdem can't dig it up accurately. It goes backwards, and it's going to be 8-5 now. The Jackrabbits lead by 3 in set number 4. Still going to be Kenna Bigsby back behind the line serving. Bigsby's serve is fair to Westover, and that knuckles off to the right. And a service ace there for Bigsby as Westover can't accurately dig that one. 8-6, the Jackrabbits lead by 2. Their lead starting to dwindle here in set number 4. Still Bigsby behind the line serving for SMSU. Picked up by Van Igdem. Here's Martin with the set. That one to Van Kirk. Van Kirk sends a heater across. That's dug up by the Mustangs. And there's a tip over, and 3 Jackrabbits dive for it, and none of them can get an accurate dig there. Westover the closest. She made contact with the volleyball. Couldn't pop it up high enough. It's going to be 8-7 now. The Jackrabbits lead by a narrow 1 in set number 4. Kenna Bigsby still serving. That one, a service error out the back line. Gives the Jackrabbits a much-needed point there. It's 9-7. The Jacks by 2, set number 4. SMSU leads 2-1 sets over the Jacks. Megan Roggenkamp will be back serving. The sophomore from Rockford, Minnesota. Back left corner of SMSU. This one blocked up front, Van Kirk, but into the pylon. And SMSU awarded the point. It's 9-8. Jacks lead narrowly. And it's going to be set number 4. It's going to be Maya Krystosik back serving. Picked up by Roggenkamp. Here is Martin on the setup for Van Kirk on the right side. Van Kirk with a spike to the back row, and the kill there for Caitlin Van Kirk. It's 10-8. Jacks by 2 in set number 4. Jocelyn Richardson going to be serving this one. Richardson's going to get the service ace. Jocelyn Richardson sets it down in a good spot there in front of the back row. It's 11-8 after the service ace by Jocelyn, and SMSU down by 3 now. Richardson still going to be serving. Service to the back right corner there of the Mustangs. Here comes a spike across. That's dug up by Martin. Here's Jocelyn Richardson bumping for Van Igdem on the left side. Van Igdem puts it in a good spot. The Mustangs are going to have to scramble for this one. There's a free ball for Roggenkamp. Martin to Bile. Bile blocked up front, and Richardson digs it up. Van Igdem able to spike across, touched by the blockers and out of bounds. They're going to say, I believe, a net violation there, I think, is what the ruling is. No replays here today for this exhibition game. It's 11-9. Jackrabbits by 2 as SMSU was awarded the point. And here comes another block up front again. Van Kirk stopped that time. And another point for SMSU on the board. It's 11-10. The Jacks narrowly lead by 1. It's a must-win set number 4 for the Jackrabbits. This one to the back row picked up by Schlimgin. Here is Martin bumping it up towards the net for Van Igdem. Van Igdem able to put it in a good spot, and the Mustangs scrambling to get it back over. Free ball for Roggenkamp. Here's Martin. And Bile spiking it across. Mustangs dig it up. They send it back a spike of their own. Here's Schlimgin. Martin to Van Igdem. Van Igdem into the blockers and into the back row over the Mustangs, sending back another one. Here's Martin on another dig. Van Kirk tips across. The Mustangs get something there. Blocked up front. Bile into Mustang territory. Here comes another spike across. That's Schlimgin on the dig. Here's Martin to Van Igdem on the left side. That's dug up again by the Mustangs. They're going to send back another tip. And here's a diving attempted dig by Roggenkamp, and she couldn't quite get under it. And that volley ends up in a point awarded for the Mustangs, and it ties us up at 11 apiece here in set number 4. Not going how the Jackrabbits wanted through this one. Kennedy Drake going to be serving for SMSU. That's picked up by Schlimgen. Here's Martin setting up Bile, and Bile jumped a little too early. Couldn't make contact with the ball there. Just an error by Bile. It's 12-11. The Jackrabbits down by 1 here in set number 4 as head coach Dan Georgalis takes the timeout. We'll be back in about 30 seconds right here on Collegiate Sports.
This portion of KSDJ 90.7's broadcast is brought to you by D.O. Bike and Fitness. Located at 1738 6th Street in Brookings, South Dakota, D.O. is a place for all things bikes. Offering top brands such as Trek and Electra, this close-to-campus store has both bike and e-bike options. Remember, you can't buy happiness, but you can buy a bike, and that's pretty close. 692-2022 is the number to call for this full-service and sales store. D.O. is a proud sponsor of SDSU Student Radio KSDJ 90.7.
Welcome back into First Bank and Trust Arena. I'm Ben Anderson with Collegiate Sports. It's set number 4 of this exhibition match as SMSU leads 2-1 over the Jackrabbits, and they lead the 4th set 12-11 in this narrow battle between these two teams who haven't met officially since 2003. Kennedy Drake serving for SMSU. That's Roggenkamp on the dig. She puts it too close to the net. It's tipped back over by the Mustangs. Here's Van Egdom, who gets blocked up front there by Emily Rohrer. And the point for SMSU. It's 13-11 now as the Jacks are down by 2. Kennedy Drake going to be serving. That's to Schlimgen. Here's Riley Martin on the setup for Van Kirk. She tips above the block. Somehow that's dug up by the Mustangs. Here comes a spike across. That's blocked by Taylor Bile. Again, Taylor's playing a good game through this one. Kill there for the Jacks. It's 13-12. Jacks are still down by 1. Set number 4. It's a must-win set for the Jacks. Rachel Weber will be serving. Weber on the serve for the Jackrabbits. Here is the Mustang return. It's a spike. Schlimgen bumps it up. Martin there to Bile. Bile on the tip across. That's blocked up front. Martin on the dig. Here's Schlimgen over to Van Egdom on the left side. Van Egdom gets an awkward spike across to the Mustangs. Here comes a heater. That's dug up by Roggenkamp. Martin sets it up for Van Egdom on the left side, and Van Egdom gets it past the block. Able to get the kill there. Ties us up at 13 apiece in set number 4. Still going to be Rachel Weber serving for the Jacks. Picked up by the back left corner for the Mustangs. Here comes the tip across. Martin gets a hand on it. That's to Roggenkamp, and a free ball here for the Mustangs after the Weber hit over the net. Here is Weber setting up for Riley Martin. Here is Bile spiking across. Dug up by the Mustangs. Here is a spike into the block of Martin, ends up on the Jackrabbit side. Martin setting up Van Egdom on the left. There's a tip over. That's dug up by the Mustangs on a dive again. Roggenkamp diving for the dig. Here is Martin setting up Van Egdom. Van Egdom can't penetrate the block. Here again, it's a tip over by the Mustangs. Somehow, Aaliyah Schlimgen gets under that one and pops it up for the Jacks. Here comes another spike. Roggenkamp with the dig. Here is Rachel Weber to Van Egdom. Van Egdom attacking error into the net. Another big volley between these two teams here in set number 4. It's 14-13. The Jackrabbits down by 1. Against this team from Marshall, Minnesota, it's Sydney Thine back to serve for the Mustangs. That to Schlimgen in the back row, popped up by Martin to Van Egdom, who spikes across. Dug up by the Mustangs. Here is a tip over. That's blocked by Martin. The Mustangs send back a free ball, and it's Riley Martin with the spike on hit number 1 with the kill there for the Jacks. Ties us up at 14 all in set number 4. Katie Van Egdom will be serving. Van Igdem's serve to the back right corner. Here is the Mustang return. It's a spike. Van Igdem on the dig. That's headed back out of bounds. Here's Schlimgen and to Weber. They get it over. It's a free ball for the Mustangs. Here comes a spike. That's dug up by Van Igdem. Here is Martin on the bump. Westover sends back a spike, and the Mustangs are going to have to scramble for it this time. Free ball for the Jackrabbits. Weber bumps it up. Martin on the set. Taylor Bile into the block, and it gets blocked out of bounds. Taylor Bile forces the error on the Mustang block. Point for the Jacks. They lead now by 1 in set number 4. It's 15-14. Katie Van Igdem still back serving. Van Igdem to the back right corner. Here comes the tip over, diving. It's Rachel Weber. Schlimgen bumps it up. Here is Martin, who gets it into the block, and a blocking error again after the attack by Riley Martin. Point for the Jackrabbits. 16-14 the score. Jacks by 2 in set number 4. It's a must-win set. Katie Van Igdem behind the line serving. This one into the tape. Service error by Van Igdem. 16-15. Jackrabbits by 1 in set number 4. Back serving for the Mustangs. It's Leah Jones. That picked up by Weber. Bump to Martin. Here is Bile on the outside for the spike. Dug up by the Mustangs. Here's a tip. Stopped by Finley Westover, but it goes out of bounds on the left sideline. Point for the Mustangs. Good attempt there by Finley Westover on the left side. Ties us up at 16 apiece in set number 4. Still going to be Leah Jones serving for the Mustangs. Picked up by Schlimgen. Here's Martin on the set for Bile on the right side. And Bile forces another blocking error from the Mustangs as they block it into the pylon. And Bile with another point for the Jacks. It's 17-16. Jackrabbits by 1 in set number 4. Aaliyah Schlimgen will serve it. This one to the back row middle for the Mustangs. Here is a spike across. That one was close to the line, but it was in. The spike over from the Mustangs is a kill. It's 17 all now in set number 4. As Mackenzie Tolk back behind the line to serve it for SMSU. Here is the serve. Schlimgen bumps it up. Here's Martin on the direct set on hit number 2, and Martin gets the kill there. It's going to be 18-17 after the set over by Martin. Jackrabbits by 1 in set number 4. It is a must-win set. Riley Martin will serve. Martin to the back row. That one awkwardly off the dig there, and it's going to be a service ace for Riley Martin. (19-17). The Jackrabbits by 2 in set number 4 after the service ace by Riley Martin. She serves again. This one to the back row middle for the Mustangs. Here comes a spike across. Martin on the dig. Schlimgen bumping it up for Van Kirk on the right side. Van Kirk with a heater from the outside into empty space in the back row. And a kill for Caitlin Van Kirk. It's 20-17. The Jackrabbits lead by 3 in set number 4. Forces the timeout called by the Mustangs here. We'll take it with them. Be right back in about 30 seconds on Collegiate Sports.
This portion of KSDJ 90.7's broadcast is brought to you by locally owned Brookings PowerQuest. Located in the University Mall at 820 22nd Avenue South, you can find everything your ride needs. From essential auto parts to top-notch accessories and customer service, PowerQuest is a one-stop shop for Brookings. Their phone number is 692-6298. PowerQuest is a proud sponsor of SDSU Student Radio, KSDJ 90.7.
Welcome back to Jackrabbit Volleyball here on Collegiate Sports. I'm Ben Anderson. So glad to have this one for you. It's set number 4, 20-17. The Jackrabbits lead this one by 3. Service by Riley Martin, sent back by the Mustangs. Here's Finley Westover on the spike over, dug up by the Mustang back row. Here comes the spike across. That's in the net. Attacking error there by the Mustangs. And a point for the Jackrabbits. It's 21-17. The Mustangs lead 2-1 sets. And the Jackrabbits in front here in set number 4 by 4. Still Riley Martin serving. Martin served to the back row middle. Popped up, here's the serve and the spike across. Dig by Van Igdam. Here's Van Kirk on the outside. Tip across. Dug up by the block. Here's a spike. Out of bounds, the back line. Point for the Jackrabbits. Another attacking error there by the Mustangs. 22-17, the Jackrabbits leading by 5 now in set number 4. And it's Riley Martin to serve once again. Martin's service to the back row middle for the Mustangs. Here comes the spike across. That's going to be ruled inbounds close to the back line. And they say it's in. Point for the Mustangs. It's 22-18. Jackrabbits by 4 in set number 4. Kenna Bigsby back serving for the Mustangs. Service across picked up by Van Igdam. Here's Riley Martin here to Finley Westover on the right side. That's blocked up front. Denied by, it's going to be number 9, Paige Steinmetz with the block there for the Mustangs. 22-19. The Jackrabbits lead narrowing here at the end of set number 4. They're still up by 3. Kenna Bigsby still serving for SMSU. That one, as Caitlin Van Kirk sidestepped that one, she thought it was going out of bounds. It was in by about a foot there. Just a miscommunication on the Jackrabbit side. Another point for SMSU on the ace there. 22-20. The Jackrabbits lead by 2. Bigsby there to Van Kirk. Here's Martin on the set over to Ventling Brown. Ventling Brown penetrates the block, and the Mustangs give the free ball over to the Jackrabbits. Here's Martin to Schlimgen. Westover on the spike. That's blocked. Dug up by Ventling Brown. Westover keeps it in play. Here's Van Igdam with the free ball over to the Mustangs. Here comes the tip over. Diving, it's Van Igdam. Into the net and playing it is Ventling Brown, but the Jackrabbits can't get anything of value over to the Mustangs side. 22-21. The Jackrabbits lead now down to only 1 in set number 4. And the Jacks forced to use their last time out of the set. It's a must-win set here for the Jackrabbits. The Mustangs lead 2-1. We're playing best of 5 here tonight. The Jackrabbits need to win this set and have started to slip here late in set number 4. Scored 22-21. The Jackrabbits up by 1. Key factor missing from the Jackrabbit roster today, Sydney Shetnan, the middle blocker, 6'5", from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. The senior not suited up tonight. Resting this one. Didn't play last week either in the exhibition games. If you like listening to Jackrabbit Volleyball here on Collegiate Sports, we've got one more of these exhibition games coming up for you. It's an away game in Ord, Nebraska. The Jackrabbits going to be taking on the Huskers, the Nebraska volleyball team in Ord. That game's already sold out. If you want to listen to it on Collegiate Sports, we'll have it for you on May 3rd at 2 p.m. Kenna Bigsby still serving for SMSU. The Jackrabbits lead by 1. It's 22-21 in this must-win set number 4. Here is Van Kirk on the left side with a heater into empty space. The Jackrabbits get the much-needed point there thanks to Caitlin Van Kirk. 23-21, Jacks by 2, set number 4. Megan Roggenkamp going to be serving for the yellow and blue. Service to the back row middle. Here is the Mustangs' return. The spike blocked by Van Kirk. Martin gets a finger on it, but the Jackrabbits can't get anything substantial built up as Schlimgen tries to dive for it. It was headed towards the back line. 23-22, Jacks narrowly lead by 1 in set number 4. Maya Christosek serving for SMSU. That's out of bounds. Service error there by the Mustangs. 24-22 now the score of set number 4. The Jackrabbits now with set point need to put this one away to force a set number 5. Jocelyn Richardson back behind the line to serve it. Richardson serve to the back row of the Mustangs in. Van Igdam up at the net. Puts away set number 4 for the Jackrabbits as the return for the Mustangs too close to the net. This is crazy. They tricked me again. Looks like we're not going to play 5 sets. We're just going to be done after 4, and we're just going to call it a tie for funsies. I don't know. They always confuse me. They got me last week. They got me this week. I never know what's going on. We're only playing 4. We're going to call it tie game 2-2 as Van Igdam able to put a capstone on this one with the spike at the net. You know, they don't tell me anything. They should start to tell me, you know. They really should. They really should. But it's all right. The Jackrabbits put away an electric 4th set with Van Igdam at the net against SMSU, and we're going to call it a tie here. 2-2 is going to be the final score here as the game comes to a close at 8:45. Beautiful day here in Brookings for volleyball as these two teams line up for a picture at center court. And an amazing day for these young Jackrabbit players in rotation. The Jacks were going to move in some of the younger players for this game. Megan Roggenkamp got some extra playing time. And Taylor Bile, an excellent game for the middle blocker. 6'3" redshirt freshman out of Sioux Falls. Bile had a wonderful game here today for the Jackrabbits. Excited to see what she can do this season, as well as Caitlin Van Kirk, the 6'2" sophomore, the transfer student out of Boise State, having an electric game as well. And then you got to give kudos to the capstone. Katie Van Igdam ends off the 4th set there for the Jackrabbits with the electric spike down at the net. It's going to be Jackrabbits taking set number 4, 25-22 over the SMSU Mustangs. The Jackrabbits took set number 1 and set number 4. SMSU took a narrow set number 2, 26-24 over the Jacks, and then dominated in set number 3 over the Rabbits through that one. Ties us up 2-2. Coming up for Jackrabbit Sports here on Collegiate Sports. I think I'm going to have one more game broadcasting this year, and that's going to be the Nebraska game. Maybe we'll throw in some some baseball. Maybe we'll throw in some softball if I'm feeling like it. We'll see. But for sure, the last thing I'll be broadcasting this school year is going to be that Nebraska volleyball game in Ord, Nebraska on May 3rd. That's a Saturday at 2 p.m. So if you want to listen to Jackrabbit Volleyball for that game, we'll have it on Collegiate Sports. I'll be traveling for that one. Interesting thing that the Nebraska volleyball team does. They travel the entire state of Nebraska, going to different high schools for their spring games. So that's why it's in Ord, Nebraska. They're playing at the Ord High School. And that game's already sold out, and we'll have it for you on Collegiate Sports. If you want to watch that game, I believe it's going to be on the Big Ten Plus network. So you're going to have to get that subscription. If you already have it, you can watch that game. Otherwise, we'll have it for you free here to listen to on Collegiate Sports. I'll be there, and then my buddy Ian Wetzel will be there taking some pictures for us as well. Thank you to everybody that makes this stuff happen. Special thanks to Megan Glover, the Assistant Director of Communications for Jackrabbit Athletics, giving us the chance to broadcast these spring games for you. Typically, these ones aren't broadcasted, but Megan Glover getting us a spot here to do these games for you. Special thanks to Braden Byers, our station manager, and Brian Stemwell, our station advisor, and everybody else who makes that stuff happen. Thank you to the Jackrabbit faithful and everybody who listens to this broadcast. We really appreciate it. It really is a privilege to do these games for you all. As always, go big, Go Blue. Go Jacks. I've been Ben Anderson for Collegiate Sports. Have a good night, everybody.